Hey, Jeff, how's it going?
Good. How are you, bud?
Not bad. You still got a week of Mondays?
It's getting better. So,
Okay,
ask me about Thursday.
fair enough. All right, well, I see everybody listed on here still from council, and I got 7:30. So we will go ahead and call this meeting to order at 7:30. So I'll ask everyone to join me in prayer and pledge to start our meeting tonight. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses. We forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation. Deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, glory, forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call, please.
Cosgrave,
Present.
Foreman,
Present.
Hamilton,
Present.
Hankinson,
Present.
Keller,
Present.
McCreary.
Present.
All right, everyone is present. First item is approval of the minutes from May 24th.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to approve the minutes. I've read over them when they look accurate.
Foreman seconds.
All right, motion and second. Any further discussion on the minute? Hearing none, roll call.
McCreary,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Cosgrave,
Yes.
Hankinson,
Abstain.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Keller.
Yes.
All right, 5-0, one abstention. Minutes will be approved as written. Next is our agenda. There is one amendment tonight, adding Mr. Keller as the sponsor for Resolution 2021-16. It is on the agenda for a first reading. It just did not have a sponsor until it came through Finance earlier tonight.
Okay, I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
All right. Query second. Discussion on the agenda. Hearing none, roll call.
Keller,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Hankinson,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Cosgrave,
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
All right, we have an agenda. Moving on to visitors, we do have one on the line. Give you guys a second. Got anything tonight? Nope. Seeing a head shake, no. So we will move on to village administration reports. My report came up a little bit in finance about the additional COVID funds, the American Relief Fund distribution that was supposed to have been distributed by now. Last week, there was a little bit of excitement thinking that they might be coming out because at least I received and some municipalities received an ordinance for councils to adopt in order to get the funds. But then it was quickly sent back out that that was legislation the state has to do in other areas to get the funds, and that hopefully we, the municipalities, will be getting additional information this week. So just like the last 2 months, we are still waiting on guidance from Treasury and people to tell us when our money's coming and exactly. We're supposed to be able to spend it on a lot more things, but of course they'll put some limitations on it. So hopefully this week we'll get that. And I know I've been saying that every meeting since March, but hopefully one of these meetings it'll actually be true. Along those same lines in rules, we removed COVID from COVID policies from our goals. I mentioned in the last meeting we're working towards getting back into the office in order to have meetings in the office, and Terry and Mr. Little were looking at some different designs for the rooms so that we can have some spacing, as well as because we might be limited in space to continue to live stream these. Our tech company, ABC, we use some of the COVID funds to be able to put a camera and microphone in there so we can continue to stream our meetings. And they had some finish up work on that. So I didn't get a chance today to touch base with Terry, but I know ABC was in the office today. So Terry, I know you might be planning on giving it an update under your administrator report, but since I'm on the topic, if you want to let us know where we're at. Again, we're looking at returning for hopefully for the meetings in July, but we still have some work to do and testing to do. But Terry, since we're on it, if you want to give us a quick update on from your side on returning to the office.
Sure. So today, the mayor is correct. Today, ABC was in and hooked up the new sound system. We're in the process of we will have a large screen television, large screen TV in there, which everything will be projected to, so that when we do go through Brian's financial reports or any of the metrics, we can put it up on the screen so everybody can see it, even those that attend from the public. My goal was to have everything up and running by the end of July, but I'm trying to move it as close to the beginning of July as possible. But we still do have a couple other items that we have to have and put in place before we can say that we're ready to go. So bear with me. A couple more weeks, I think everything will be ready. And to the mayor's point, I'm trying to rearrange so that we will not have plastic shields like dividers like others. So we'll be in an open room, and I think that the way we're going to lay it out will be acceptable. And again, we may have a limited space for public, but we'll be Zooming it for those that still want to join us via Zoom.
Hey, Terry, as soon as, since they hooked up the sound system and stuff, as soon as it and the camera for streaming and stuff are ready, let me know so that I can come in and you and we can maybe we can have Barb log in from home while she's recuperating to just test that. I don't want our first council meeting or committee meeting back in the building to be the test for getting everything streaming. So.
And I agree. Again, my target date was the end of July, and I'll work as quickly as we can. They're still having some issues getting parts, getting equipment. Things were on back order. These mics were on back order for the last, I believe, 3 or 4 months. So again, we'll move as quickly as we can to make sure that everything is in place. But I agree with you. We'll have a test run prior to our council meeting.
But with that said, the office is, while we're not back in there yet for our meetings for some of these reasons, the office is back open. We do have the signs posted out front for the vaxxed or masked, limitations in the lobby area, but everyone is back in the office, so it is back fully open. So, any questions on that? All right. Next, I'm going to move on. So we painted earlier this year, we got the old firehouse painted. It looks good. And then when we were out for the Arbor Day, ceremony. Someone had mentioned that the flagpole is looking a little rough, and that the flag on top of it might be a little undersized for the size of that pole. I noticed, and other people noticed, that the flagpole started to get painted. So hopefully Terry will be able to finish painting that flagpole soon, because last week Joe Machado gave to me and donated to the village a 6x10 flag to hang up on that pole once we get it painted and looking nice. So we've got a nice large flag to get on that flagpole when we get it painted and stuff. So I just wanted to thank Joe. He was there, and he was one of the ones that noticed it and talked about it as well. And he emailed me, called me up, and then found Mark at the farmer's market and said, "Here's a flag for you." So I have that, and we will hopefully. Guess that I thought ahead. Today is Flag Day, but that might have been a little quick to get the pole painted with everything else. But it would have been fitting for today. But I have a flag for that. So thank you, Joe. Last thing I have is something that also came up in one of the committee meetings, the website. We've talked about it several times. Barb, who is off right now, has been doing a lot of work on it. I've been working on some of the stuff for the content, but Terry, if you want to give everybody an update, because I know you've talked to Barb more recently than I have about where we're at on our conversion to a much better website that'll give us much more flexibility and functionality.
Right. I've taken over that project, so I've taken on responsibility of it. I've been in contact with the vendor. The vendor is Unilink. It is the same software company that we have our water and sewer software with. Again, to Mr. Cosgrave's point, people will be able to look at their bills, to pay online. There's a lot of good stuff coming down with this new website configuration. They have already transitioned all of our, within a week's period of time, they transitioned everything from the current website over to them for us to review and to evaluate. That was like about 6 months faster than the current vendor. I'm, as you all know, very, very disappointed in with the services that we're getting out of the current vendor. I think you will all be pleased. There are various entities throughout the state of Ohio that use this, including Cary and Ada and a couple other places, and they all love it. I called and talked to them, and they said that it's a great website. We'll be able to even have again, all of our forms on there. It's going to be a big improvement. I am hoping to have that up and running before the July meeting. Coming soon, a very, very great, what I think, website for the village that will allow us to communicate. The nice thing about it is that the chief will have his own page on that website, which then he can use for his community policing and et cetera, that he will just be responsible for that section of the website. So more to come. I think you're going to be pleased with it. And like I said, I'm targeting July.
Terry, I didn't get a login for the development side to go through stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll talk to him tomorrow. In fact, he just emailed me, so I'll talk to him again tomorrow.
Okay. All right. And that's all I have for tonight. If anybody has any questions. All right. Terry, you're up.
All right. Well, we talked about the website, and we talked about the office being open. The office has been open for a couple of weeks. I think it's working well. Again, open in the same hours as usual, 8 o'clock to 4:30. Still, a lot of people are using the online PDFs to file for applications, still depositing their payments into the outside Dropbox and not even coming in. So I think that while there is some changes with COVID, this might be one that we see a majority of the people still utilize. So while we're on the office, I want to update you a little bit. Barb is on medical leave. Barb will probably be out she has applied for the whole summer. So that means it'd be the last of August before she returns to us. She has taken it out in blocks of 2 weeks. So if she starts to feel better, she will come back sooner. It was imperative that we get some help because first of all, we have people that are taking vacations, including myself. So what we did, and of course, council had said we could hire 2 seasonal employees. We did get one application, Ralph West, who works for Tim at the street department. And then we did hire someone else for the office. That person that we hired is Annabelle. If you don't know Annabelle, Mr. Hankinson met her today. She is my granddaughter. Nobody else applied for the job. She needed a job before she goes away to college. She had worked a couple of summers on doing ordinances for us. So, and had worked for Barb, so she was very in tune to the office. She is reporting directly to Missy. Missy had just a 1 week trained her on the water and sewer system. She takes payments. I mean, she's doing a really good job. Brian can echo that if he would like, but she will be with us until the 1st of August. In the meantime, because Barb does so many minutes and etc., Brian has chosen to reach back out to Holly. Holly, as you know, prior to Barb coming on board, when Barb had surgery on her knee, also did the minutes for us for all of our meetings. That's a very task-oriented, very tedious task-oriented. And so I'm glad to have Holly back on with us until Barb comes back. That will fill a big slot there. So don't hesitate. If you feel like you're not getting the right documents or something is missing, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, you know, we're trying our best to fill that void. And I talked to Barb on Tuesday. She was leaving the hospital and going home on Wednesday to recuperate and back into physical therapy that week. So she is doing really well. So I anticipate seeing her sooner than later before the end of the summer. So that's an update on the office. Now, also in staff, I wanted to say that there is an organization in Lancaster called TeenWorks. That's TeenWorks for teens. They reached out to me a couple of times, and what they do is they have teenagers that are looking to find a job, usually their first job that they've ever had. And so what they would do, TeenWorks employs them. They pay their salary, they pay all the expenses for employment. And then what we do is we supply jobs for them. So they range anywhere from the age of 14 to 16. One of my ideas that I talked to Tim today, because ever since I hired him 5 years ago, Tim and I have had conversations about how some of the fire hydrants are way past being painted. As you know, since we could only find one person that wanted to work this summer in his department, you know, we don't have time to paint street hydrants. So my proposal to TeenWorks tomorrow is going to be that we have what we call a fire hydrant opportunity, that if the TeenWorks employees want to paint fire hydrants for the summer for us, that we can use them. So again, he is telling me that even the 14-year-olds, they would pair them up, or they've worked before, so they don't need someone standing over them at all times. So once I get the rules and regulations on how we have to do this, then I will get with Tim, and then we'll put something together. I think it's a good opportunity, well, for the village to get our fire hydrants painted, and for also these teens that want to have a job. So that's a little bit about that. So any questions about staff or the office? And I guess the only other staff you probably wonder about is at the pool. We were able to come up with, Brian, I think it was 12 lifeguards. Is that correct, Brian? 12 employees?
Yeah.
12 employees. Everybody's been certified, and is just working out great. I think our manager and our assistant manager that Brian was able to engage this year are fantastic. I mean, they're very well organized, and it appears to me each time I'm there that staff greatly respects them. So I think that's moving along. So I think that's all I have in the way of staff and office, unless you have any questions.
I would suggest that maybe some of the yellow no parking zone curbs be repainted as well. We're doing that.
Too, Rick. Yeah, that's a good one. Let me write that down. Yes, I like that. So we'll see what she has to offer us, or who wants to be on that team this year. A little more about the zoning software that we talked about in finance. As you know, we do zoning for Pleasantville and code enforcement both. Pleasantville has agreed to pay towards not only the installation costs, but also the yearly fee for this software. So to let you know that, yeah, we haven't decided how much they're going to pay based on what percentage of time I use it for Pleasantville. But again, Pleasantville is willing to pay towards that software. So more to come on that. I'm kind of jumping here. I wanted to talk about the pool. One more thing, if anybody hasn't noticed, the mushroom has not been working. We had some issues with the pump early on with the mushroom, and Tim had the vendor come back and pick up the pump and send it back to the manufacturer. They have since figured out what the issue is with that, and so they will be installing that mushroom, I believe this week or next week. So it should be back operational. So the mushroom will live again at the pool. So I know everybody enjoys it, and everybody says, what happened to the mushroom? So it is around, and it'll be back on track soon. Talk a little bit about streets. We are still awaiting the governor to pass the budget so that we can get notification of OPWC. This is the 15th of the month. I thought by now we would have had something, but until the governor passes that budget, I guess we're kind of on hold. All the surveying, most of the surveying has been done. I'm in the process of creating a letter that will tell all of the residents surrounding there what the project's about. In fact, I had Annabelle do all of the envelopes today. What we will have to wait until we get notification from OPWC. And once they say, yeah, you're good to go, all of those letters will go out to all of the neighbors on Park and et cetera, so they know what's going on. I know Mr. Keller's had some questions about the survey people that were over there that people were asking him. So it's hard because we're in a gray area where they say you can't tell anyone that you got this yet, but you're going to get it. So you know, it makes it kind of difficult. So as soon as we can, we'll get that done. We're going to get the hot taps done this week or next. And then after they're finished, then we will do some street patching, and including we had a water leak, if you remember, in January up on Romulus. And so we'll be patching that area too. So so this week is a full week for the street department. They have a lot of tasks going on. I'm going to talk a little bit about Parks and Rec. We had in the last park meeting decided that we weren't going to meet during the summer, but something has come up. So John is going to be sending out, who is the chairperson of our group, is going to be sending out a new meeting. We were approached, or I was approached by Robert Landis. Robert is excited about the fact that, if you don't know, he has a foundation established, and he's also been working on some other improvements he would like to see at the pool. So we are going to set up a Parks and Rec Committee meeting the last Wednesday of this month to review everything that he would like to do, and then invite Robert to that meeting. And then for the next council meeting, we will bring the committee's recommendations to council. So I think it's a great opportunity. A couple weeks ago, if you remember, I passed out the storm report from B3 that needs to be submitted to the EPA. I know it was a lot of reading. I didn't have any questions back or anything, so I'm going to get back with B3 and then tell them it's time to submit it to the EPA. So we'll probably be submitting that report to the EPA either the last half of this week or next week. So you still have couple more days if you do have any questions. That was a requirement of our discharge permit, so we need to get it submitted to them. While I'm on the EPA, I have been in contact with them because Tom is leaving, as you know, on the 25th. I have advertised for an operator 2 of record. Slow getting any applicants, but I have now received 2 or 3. So I'm reviewing those. I also have a couple of staff members that are going to go take their operator 1. I know it is a 2, but the EPA is suggesting that we also have an operator 1 on staff. So that's what we're going to do. So there's a lot of moving parts going on there. So more to come on that, but I feel very confident that by the time that Tom leaves on the 25th, that I will have everything in place to be compliant, and I'll work very closely with the EPA. The other thing is we ordered a couple more sludge bags today, just to get back into our usual preventive maintenance, since now we're away from these solids. By the way, the plant solids are still down, so whatever's going on right now, we have happy bugs, so we have a happy process. So we have scheduled a meeting with Suez in August. So we still believe, why we haven't got 100% confirmation with COVID travel restrictions being off and everything, we believe that will still occur in August. So again, as far as the water plant, we talked about the hot taps getting installed. We'd like to get those installed, especially before we start the project over on Park Drive. That is one of the hot taps we'll be doing over there. The other project that we had ongoing and had a little bit of a delay was the relining of the sewer there on Park and on Market and Park Street. That is going to happen next week. It was delayed a bit. Today, we again got the letters around and all of the envelopes ready to mail out tomorrow to all of the residents in that area. This will be a 2-day project, 2, hopefully not 3, but it'll be a different traffic change pattern. So just alerting to everybody that it's going to be kind of congested there on Market Street during this process, and just letting them know what's happening, and et cetera. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, and I guess this should have been covered under zoning, but ACT Investments is going for a hearing, their second hearing with Walnut Township. They are asking for a change from residential to R2, which is along 256 East. That is within our plans that we had talked about, and that is putting residential along there. We met with Robert and his team last week to talk about sewer and water access, whether we can do it where all has to be done with grinder pumps, or whether we could do it with a lift station based on what he plans on doing in the near future. He very much wants to annex all of those 80+ acres into the village. And I've been working with Jeff on that, and we have maybe a little bit of a hiccup that we have to get through, but as soon as he can, Robert wants to annex all of that property into the village. Last but not least, to everybody, I'm sure interest, Sam will be in town Tuesday night spraying for mosquitoes if it doesn't rain. So we will have our mosquito spray. Sorry, that was a long report. There's a lot going on. This is a busy time, as you know, for all of us. Any
Hey,
questions?
Terry, how did the conversation with the EPA go about our operator issue, since an operator 2 will probably have no experience in a membrane plant and some form of agreement for a subclass of operator that only allows membranes? And I know it's not going to happen overnight, but how did that conversation go with them?
Well, they have no interest. A sewage plant or wastewater plant is a wastewater plant. You know, I pointed that out against them today, that probably my operator 2 that would be joining us would not have the experience with a membrane plant, but I call it as an opportunity for experience. We can run 30 days after Tom leaves without an operator because they know I am actively engaging, looking for someone. We also talked about the testing, and there are so few membrane plants in the state of Ohio, it's not an issue with them. So that's the conversation.
I have a question.
Okay.
Regarding the operator of record, are there waivers available for a class 2 plant to be run by a class 1 operator interim?
That is correct, Wade. I have been, again, talking to them, and I can go up to a year with a class 1, knowing that they know I'm looking for someone. So yes, that's an exception to the rule. And if I need to pursue that, I do have that option to pursue, and we can do a class 1 for up to a year. They don't like to go as long as a year, but they will go up to a year.
That gives us a bit of flexibility.
Yes, yes.
Outstanding. Thank you.
No problem. It's a learning process, since I've never dealt with this issue before.
Terry, I have one question.
Sure.
Is that TeamWorks or TeenWorks that you're talking about?
Teen, TEENWORKS.
Okay, that's all I want. I got the notes on it. I just
Sure.
didn't hear
That
it
was
correctly,
easy
I
one.
guess.
Hey, Terry, I have something as well. One of the Liberty Township trustees came to me again about a different topic, because I'm easy to get to. I'm like right there. They come in every day anyway, so it's easy to have a conversation. But they are contemplating paving Kumler Street in front of the park to the village limits, and they just want to make us aware of that in case we felt it a good idea to maybe contact that contractor to pave it the rest of the way in, since they're already deployed, and we wouldn't have to have a deployment cost, and that maybe just tagging onto their paving project would also be beneficial to us. They just wanted to make us aware of that. They didn't, obviously we are not obligated to do anything, but they just want to make us aware that they're thinking about, instead of tar and chipping like they do everywhere else, they're actually thinking about paving their portion, and they thought we might be interested in paving it the rest of the way down. So they just wanted to make us aware of that.
Okay. I'll pass that message along to Tim. Tim usually works with their road crew very close, because usually when they've tarred and chipped and sealed before, we did our chip and seal at the same time. So I'll do this as an action item to get with Tim, and then he can get the update on what's going on.
Yeah, and they're going to actually pave, not chip and seal.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I am not sure that we have the funds to do that this year. That's my only issue.
No, it'd be next year.
Oh, for 2022?
Yes.
Oh, 2022
Yeah.
budget is wide open.
Right. They wanted to get ahead of the curve and give us the opportunity to say, hey, yeah, a lot of people go to Alt Park. A lot of people, it's a road used by many, many people that don't live here and by all the residents. So they wanted to make us aware that they were going to actually pave their portion, and maybe we might want to think about it as well.
Oh, okay. Again, I can't see Brian's smiling face, but I can tell you the 2022 budget is wide open. We haven't.
Right. So yeah, not this year, next year.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm
Thank
glad
you,
you
Rick.
said that. I'm glad you said that, Rick, because I was over here going, oh God, oh
That's
God.
why I couldn't see your face. I said that, Brian.
And again, I apologize that they come to me, but they come into my store every day, so it's easy to have a conversation. So it's not that they're trying to circumvent the powers that be. We have conversations every day anyway. So that's just the way it works.
Because I feel like
Thank you,
I'm
Rick.
available, but yeah, Brian, I was looking for your face when Rick
Well,
was. I just-
I had to switch computers. My new laptop, I was about dead in battery. I had to switch computers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Any
And-
other questions?
and As I say, anybody got anything else for Terry? All right. Well,
Thank you.
Brian, since you're unmuted, you got anything for us?
Well, I don't know if everyone was on during finance, but updated, like Terry mentioned, we have approximately 12. We do have, counting the manager and assistant manager, we have 12 lifeguards. I think we're going to go with that this year because it's going to be hard to get certified now. But it's been open for 2 weeks, and if the weather would cooperate a little bit, we'd probably have better gate receipts. But on the flip side, we have sold $16,000 worth of memberships so far this year. And as of yesterday, Sunday, they've raked in almost $24,500. So we're off to a good start. We just need the weather to cooperate with us again. The other thing, I know Jeff's going to be talking about it next, but the tax budget was also presented tonight. That can go for 3 readings. It's the budget we have to approve every year by July. I have to turn it into the county auditor by July 20th.
I think we have to pass it by July 15th, and then you get 5 days to turn it into the auditor.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. All right. Any questions for Brian? All right. Jeff, what you got for us?
As Brian indicated, the 2022 tax budget needs to go to 3 readings. We have to have a public hearing shortly before council on the 3rd reading, which is July 12th, and it'll need to be adopted as an emergency on that date so Brian can timely forward it. And then the only other thing I have to add is that the ordinance 2021-15, which authorizes an agreement between the Village of Baltimore and the Village of Thurston for police protection services, can go also to another reading. A draft of that agreement is being reviewed by the Village of Thurston, and it's my understanding that they're going to tweak that somewhat and send it back to us for further review and consideration. So that should just be read for a 2nd reading tonight and not considered for passage this evening. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, sir. Moving on, committee reports. First up is finance.
Okay, Mayor, we had a meeting tonight. Brian went over the finance for last month. Wastewater was a little bit over budget, but there was some unexpected expense before the beginning of the year. But he thinks we will be within budget here next month. We also talked about the 2022 tax budget, and you heard Jeff, so I won't say more about that. We did talk about a zoning software, IWRQ. A motion was made to let Terry go ahead and go through that agreement and get that software. It'll be an ordinance at the next meeting. The cost will be $5,400 a year. The first year, because a startup fee, it'll be $9,000. The next meeting is in July, will be canceled. And our next meeting will be August the 9th at 6 o'clock. That's my report, Mayor.
All right. Any questions for finance? All right. Service.
Yes, Mayor, we haven't met since last meeting. The next scheduled meeting, I think, is June 28th. I don't
All
have
right.
anything.
Good deal. Thank you, sir. And safety?
Our next meeting is 28th, right after service.
All right. Thank you, sir. And rules?
Well, everyone was present, I think, except maybe for McCreary tonight for the rules meeting we just had tonight. And our next meeting will be July the 12th at 6:30.
All right. Moving on. Chief?
Thanks, Mayor. We've got a couple warrants that we got served on some. One involved a stalker who's been stalking a young lady and her baby for about 5 years. We were able to get him arrested this morning. And the second was a person who, for a better word, was stalking a local church. We were able to develop a suspect today. We got the report this morning. They had no idea who he was. By this afternoon, we'd identified him, and he's been arrested also. We have 3 new officers. One is already working the street, which has expanded our amount of coverage into the evening, which is obviously what we're all trying to do. The other 2 are still in training. One of them has a pretty extensive background. I think it'll be a short turnaround for him to get him out there, and then that'll get us in really, really good shape. We've been asked to participate in the torch run for Special Olympics. So we're going to be involved in that. At this point, it looks like we're going to probably have 2 officers riding 2 of the police bikes along. That's both run and bikes both. So they're probably going to be doing that. And just been talking to people about the Baltimore Festival, trying to get that online with where we go from there. We also were able to locate a couple of the laptop computers, the MDTs that we have in the cruisers. I think most everybody remembers this, but the problem we have with those is in the summer, they overheat. And if you have that issue, eventually we had one that just, once it shut down, it would not reopen, and it cost us quite a bit to get it repaired. So we're unfortunately at a point that it's like a perfect storm. Gas prices have went completely stupid, but on the other side of it, if we've got a cruiser out somewhere, we can't turn the car off because it's got to have AC blowing on the computer or it'll overheat. So we did locate a couple of refurbished. Those computers are pushing $4,000 a piece, and we found them, I believe, for 2. The deal that we got on was 2 for $500 with a warranty. Our thought is we're going to need to replace at least one, put it into service, and that gives us one. If one does go down, we've got one on the shelf that we can put in the car until we get repairs taken care of. Those units are getting pretty long in the teeth. We got all of those for free through a grant back in the day. So like anything else, they don't last forever. And we're also in the process on those of updating those to a Windows 10 format. We have to have that done by the end of the year, or we will not be able to access any of the state files after that. And I think other than that, I think that's where we're kind of at right now.
All right. Anybody got any questions for Chief?
Mayor, I do have one thing.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask him. Go ahead, Mayor.
All right. I was going to ask about our speed radar device.
That's down. I believe Tim Little's putting that. It had to be assembled, and we're looking at a conveyance that makes it easier instead of trying to mount it to a pole, that we could move it from location quicker, or get it out of hazard conditions quicker. And but that's where we're at with that. We're pretty excited about that. I think that's going to be a huge tool for us once we get that up and running.
All right.
The only thing that I had that I've got it written right in front of me. We had talked about whether or not it was viable to have some sort of a phone that citizens could call in. We're still looking into that. There's some logistical problems with that. I think the concept is good. It's just trying to find the vehicle to make it work. So I hope by next safety, I'll have a full report on that so that we can evaluate it and see if that's the route we need to go.
I would say that,
right.
That's something I'm very interested in because, some of us that just are always here would really like to have a way to make you aware of something that's going on in the village. I mean, I nearly never leave the village. I don't know how rare that is, but it's like I drive across town 6 or 7 times a day. It's Mike Hamilton will tell you that, right, Mike? But, and I will say that I have had a couple of residents say that they have noticed an increased police presence and they appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll look for the update at safety then on the phone situation. All right. No other questions for Chief. We'll go on to the fire district and fire board.
Okay. Our next meeting is the 17th. It'll be this Thursday, 6:30, and it'll be at station 610.
All right. Moving on, planning and zoning. We were to have a meeting this past Thursday. We've got a number of things that we want to prioritize to discuss, and also need to have some public hearings on. The public hearings, it all kind of worked out in the end. The public hearings didn't get noticed in time, so we couldn't have those. But that turned out to be okay because of vacations and other family situations with members of the committee. We did not have a quorum, so we did not have a meeting this month. Our next meeting is July, the second Thursday in July, which will be July the 8th. So we will have a meeting then. We'll get the public hearings noticed for those posted on website and around the village, and then we will also have a discussion about some things we want to look at in the zoning code based on variances and stuff we've had recently. So that next meeting will be July 8th. Any questions? All right. Tree Commission.
We met virtually on last Thursday, June 10th. I think one of the biggest topics on the agenda was our pesticide application process. We currently do not have anybody that is licensed to spray pesticides. Steve Cottrell has stepped forward as the chairperson of the tree committee and is letting us use his license. We have a process in place now that we set up with documentation and forms so that if we do get an audit from ODNR, we do have everything in place for them to view. We received our 10-year Tree City USA Award. It's a very large metal sign. So we'll have to decide where we want to put it, but it's nice looking. But we'll get that hung up, and our next meeting is July 8th, Thursday, July 8th.
All right. All right. Questions for Terry on trees? All right. Records Commission, nothing to report because we met earlier and sent records off for destruction. Brian, I guess I do have a question. will we need to do another destruction towards the end of this year, or will we wait? Do you want to wait until January, February, and the year rolls over and do it early next year?
Well, the records were destroyed last week, but there are about 5 or 6 boxes that weren't on the list that need to be brought up. So I need to go through those. We probably need to meet again sometime in this fall.
Okay. Okay. We can do that. Just let me know once you get through those records and we'll go through them.
They're mainly waters and sewer. They weren't on the list.
Okay. Oh, all right. All right. So we'll move on. Motions, resolutions, and ordinances. Anybody got any motions at this time?
Nope.
If not, we will move on to first reading.
I think it's a motion I have from finance regarding the iWorks software to make a motion out of finance to allow the village administrator to initiate purchase of the iWorks software in order to track the zoning and permits
And code enforcement.
and code enforcement. That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
I'll second that.
All right. And just, thank you, Chuck. Discussion on that, and as we open discussion on, just in case someone wasn't on for that part, because we budgeted for it last year, but not this year, for whatever reason, this will allow Terry to lock in our pricing and start with it. But at the next meeting, Brian will have an ordinance for us to increase the appropriation since we didn't budget for it. So, go ahead, Terry.
And this is what I was talking about in my report, that Pleasantville will pay some towards this also.
Yep. All right. Any other discussion? All right, roll call.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Geller,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Hamilton. You're on mute, Mike. Nod. Oh, there you go.
There you go. Yes.
Hankinson.
Yes.
All right, 6-0, motion will carry.
Thank
Terry,
you.
go ahead, and then we'll have that ordinance for the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Any other motions at this time? All right, we will move on to first readings of ordinances and resolutions. Resolution 2021-16, a resolution to adopt the 2022 tax budget and declaration of emergency. Sponsor is Keller.
Okay, Mayor, this is the first reading. We went over it in finance, and of course, Jeff talked about it, Brian talked about it. We're 8 counties in Ohio that has to do this, so we'll have 3 readings. I had to put that in, as Brian said.
It's a good little tidbit to have. So, all right, so we'll leave this on for a second reading, June 28th.
Which, when I go to those hearings, Chuck, because they have a hearing in August I have to go to, I bring that up.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So, all right, well, keep bringing it up, Brian. Maybe one of these times they'll do it. Hopefully. All right, so we'll leave that on for a second reading, 628, and we'll move on to second readings, ordinance 2021-15, which is an ordinance authorizing the village administrator to execute an agreement between the Village of Baltimore and the Village of Thurston for the provision of police protection services and the declaration of emergency. Sponsor is Hamilton.
This is the second reading night and second reading tonight, correct? Yeah.
Correct.
And, it can just go to the third reading. So.
All right. And this one will stay on for a third reading on 628. There is nothing for third readings. So we'll move on to old business. Does anybody have any old business? All right. Does anybody have any new business?
Yeah, I would like to bring up the sign permit situation. To me, the sign permit is more about the structure than the actual sign. I know this went back to planning and zoning, but it's more of an interpretation than it is a planning and zoning thing. It's like, the sign, when you say, when I brought this up before, is like, if I change from ACE to True Value, it's just changing verbiage. Well, changing from Napa to Old Barnco is just a change in verbiage. It's not a change in the existence of the sign structure or the sign. And like Weaver Hardware, they had the True Value sign up, and just a year or so ago, the True Value guys were in town and were like, what? I can't believe that sign's still up. That sign has to come down right now. And so the sign permit has more to do with the structure than it has to do with the sign, because you can put anything you want on that sign. There's nothing about the verbiage. There's nothing about the sign in the permit. It's more about where it's located and the size. And so the interpretation of the sign permit should be more about the structure and the size of the sign, and the ones that were there previously should be grandfathered.
Well, what I would say to that, Rick, is and I've been talking with them as well and have a meeting with them tomorrow. Though the poll they want to put it on hasn't been used for a while. My first issue is you got to apply for the damn permit first, and they haven't even done that. So that's the problem.
I have a question.
As I told them, hold on. As I told them, they've got two signs there. I think one would be a perfectly acceptable sign. I don't know that they've applied for a permit for that one. The other one needs a variance. And as I tried to explain to them in email, a lot of times when we get variance requests and we find out something like this happens when we change the code, and if planning and zoning then changes and says, yes, we meant for the right-of-way exclusion to be for new poles to put in the ground in the right-of-way and not apply to existing poles, I think then we should refund those variance fees. We did it, we discussed it in the last BZA meeting with some people with fences where they're a foot off the property line and they want their fence on the property line, and planning and zoning is going to look at changing that. And if we change that, I think we should refund that variance fee. The problem is we have the code as it is, so Terry has to apply it as it is. If you don't agree with it, there's a process, the variance process, to be able to get what you want to do. But until the people do what they need to do to start that process, we can't really do anything about it.
But how do how does this occupant even know if their sign should be grandfathered?
They've talked with Terry numerous times, and I don't think it's.
But they have no access to the records. They have no access to the records. I mean, like on my property, I would have that. And like Jeff, he went from Sunoco to Marathon and back, he's a Marathon now, but he changed the verbiage on his sign. I don't know if his sign was grandfathered. I mean, what was said was it's a change in the verbiage. Well, every sign is a change in the verbiage.
Well, when you change the sign, you still have to do a new sign permit because you're changing the sign, because there are requirements in there about what it is. But again, I'm going back to, you've got to apply for the permit and do the process you're supposed to as that business owner in order to be able to allow us to have those discussions. They wanted to join planning and zoning the other night, and they could have joined, but planning and zoning can't discuss it because they haven't done the permit yet, and it's a BZA issue. I just need them to do what they need to do so that we can have this discussion. I don't totally disagree with them that pole is there and had a sign on it for years, but there's a process in place we have to follow.
You just drive through
need them to follow
town.
that.
You drive through town and you see all these empty sign structures like Weaver Hardware sign. You see at the old Domino's location. It's like we look like a ghost town. We look like a ghost town because we have empty sign structures that people aren't allowed to put signs on. So it's like going into a store and all the shelves are empty because you can't afford to buy the product, or going into a town and all the sign structures are empty because they won't let them put signs back on them. It's frustrating. It's upsetting.
Are these people applying for permits and we're denying them, or are they just not applying for them?
Well,
because I'm not seeing a lot of sign permits come in. So I challenge you, all of those people that you just said have signs that they can't put stuff on. Tell them to submit a permit.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Otherwise, we're just talking about nothing, and it looks like a ghost town, and it might, and I agree. The problem is are we creating an issue when there isn't one? Because if people aren't applying for the permits because they don't want to put a sign up, then why are we arguing about it?
I'm not arguing. I'm saying that
the sign is on. The utility company or the store? Who owns the pole that the sign is on?
The pole is a sign pole. It's not a utility pole.
Okay, to answer your question, Mr. Cosgrave, it is in the right of way.
Correct.
It is, and we didn't, and it is a pole that is in the right of way that has not had a sign on it for over 20 years. So it was a non-conforming.
Wait, no, Napa is not 20 years. It's 10 maybe.
Oh, okay, well, give me 10.
It hasn't had a sign on it since the adoption of our new code.
Correct.
Well, and True Value had a sign on it, but True Value freaked out and made them take it down because people don't want their sign or their name on an empty store. So that sign was on there for years and years and years, even though it was an empty building. But then when the people that owned the name saw it, they went nuts. It was down in a few days because they were so upset about it. So, I mean, the permit has much more to do with the location and the structure than it does the actual sign. And so the actual structure and the actual sign location should be grandfathered, is what I'm saying.
And in order to get that, though, the way our code is written, and what I'm saying is we don't allow signs on poles in the right of way. I'm not saying that I don't, disagree with you that the pole is there and maybe they should be allowed to put their sign up there, but the sign permit includes what the sign is going on as well as the sign dimensions and look of the sign. That's all required in the permit. But we have to apply the rules as we have them written. And it says Terry has to deny a sign in the right of way. Because
a new sign.
And their sign is new. That company did not exist.
It's not.
The pole is not new.
We're changing the verbiage of the sign from Napa to Old Barnco or Domino's to Diamond in the Rough,
correct.
or True Value to whatever that furniture company is. It's going to go away now because they're going out of business because they can't put a sign up.
Okay, I'm tired of this crap of they didn't put a sign up. Did they apply for a permit? Because
They've
if you don't apply
multiple conversations.
Who has, Rick? Rick, who has had multiple conversations with me directly?
The Jensens.
We're not talking that. We're talking the furniture company. Who did they talk to that they did not get to put a sign up?
Larry and Lori Jensen.
No, you're talking Old Barnco.
Yes.
I thought you were talking a different company. Yes.
I'm also citing these other businesses because they have the exact same situation going on. I'm not citing them saying they applied for a permit. I'm saying they have a sign structure that would not be allowed to exist today, but it already
Correct.
exists, so they should be allowed to use it.
And what I'm saying is as our code was written, that very well may be an oversight based on planning and zoning. You were on the committee when we adopted it, and you didn't pick that out, that we were prohibiting signs in the right of way. So what we have is Terry has to apply it as it's written. Let me finish. She has to apply it as it's written. They have a variance process they can go through now. And then like we do with most variances, especially when it can apply to other people, we send it to planning and zoning to look at, did we mess up this language? Do we need to relax it a little bit? And if planning and zoning decides to change that language, we talk about refunding their variance permit. But if they want their sign up now, there is a process in place and they need to follow it. At some point, planning and zoning will be discussing signs. And if it changes, it changes. But for right now, they're not going to get, I can't tell them that it's okay to put their sign up because our zoning code says they can't. Terry can't tell them it's okay to put their sign up because they can't. You can't tell them that it's okay to put their sign up because it's not.
And I told them that they
BZA
can't. I told them they can't.
Right.
For sure.
BZA,
I know that they can't. But
BZA can grant that variance and say this is okay, and then planning and zoning can change the code.
what I'm saying is it shouldn't require BZA or a variance because there was a sign already there. I'm just changing the sign from Napa to Old Barn Co.
You wrote
it's
the
a change in
variance.
verbiage.
You were on the committee that wrote that code.
If I'd been,
So,
we never
rule of
discussed
law.
that signs wouldn't be grandfathered. We never discussed that. A sign was already there and we changed the sign from the previous company to the new company. We never discussed that. We never talked about that.
Then it becomes a point that a committee can take up and parse out. But in order for the committee to take it up, an application has to be submitted.
And that's fine, but this is an interpretation thing, not a new sign thing. This is
Right,
interpreting the change of verbiage from the previous company to the new company, not a whole new sign. This sign was already there. We're going to put up a new sign with a new name on it. It's not a new structure, a new location. Everything's new. There was a sign there, and we're going to change it from the old company, whatever that company was, to the new company. It's not rocket science.
But it is the ship of state, and the ship of state turns slowly. It's government.
Right.
But it doesn't have to.
Well, no, it doesn't
and
have to Rick, if the process is followed. But let me say this. So when they moved into that structure that was a Napa but then was a taxidermy and then became the Old Barn, they had to go through a process with the county for a change of occupancy. They just finished that process that they started last August. In reality, that change of occupancy permit needs to be in place before the business opens. I have 2 businesses on North Main Street that followed the process, and it turned around by the time they were ready to open, they had all their permits, their signage, and they're doing great. So it's just following the process.
So what just to clarify, Terry, what you're saying is from the beginning, this company hasn't followed the process in place. They've done what they're supposed to do.
They submitted an application for the poll. I explained to them numerous times and pointed out in the zoning code and the fact that it was in the right of way, why it wasn't allowed. They wanted to put one, they had talked to Rick about putting one over the sidewalk, but they didn't want to, something about there was one there before, but they didn't want somebody to run into it. So I had told them and offered them numerous times, I will work with you tell me where you want to put this sign. Let's find a couple of places that it will work so it's visible. The sign they currently have on their side of their building was not one that they filed a permit for, which, by the way, would be an acceptable sign if I had a permit for it. So in reality, the county had contacted me that they had not completed the process of the inspections for the occupancy. They had not one, but two signs that weren't there. I sent them 2 letters notifying them that they were in violation and was just getting ready to issue a court summons because they replied to nobody except to Rick. And then to last week, James called and said that they finished the inspection for the occupancy. And but other than that, this has been since last August. And my goal is not only to what you said, Brad, is to you like all of the rules and regulations and laws we have. It's my job to enforce them, not to make them. So that means I can't make them and I can't change them. And so that's why we have the variance process in place to change. So, and that's what I explain to both of them, that, you know, I'm not here to, it's much like community policing. We're not here to arrest everyone. We're here to work with you. We want to help you through this process, but there was no helping. And like I said, it's just been, even the fact that they wanted to come tonight to talk about it when it wasn't on the agenda, you know,
Well, to be clear,
tomorrow for our conversation that the mayor has sent up with the Jensens, that maybe through our conversation that the 4 of us can talk, we can get everything back on track. But again, this went from Napa to a taxidermy shop to them. So this Napa was like 2 businesses back.
okay, but to be clear, the only thing they've ever discussed with me is to put a sign back on the sign pole that already exists. So when you talk about the wall sign or any other kind of sign, they've never discussed any other sign with me other than putting a sign that says Old Barnco back on the sign pole that already exists. That's all they've ever discussed with me. That's all they've ever wanted. And they were told that that was not going to be okay.
All right. Well, they know the process. I'll meet with them tomorrow. We'll talk with them tomorrow. P&Z has signed to review it on there. And so I think we've talked about this enough for tonight.
I'm good.
All right. Does anybody else have any new business? I got a text the other day from Commissioner Levesey asking again. It comes up every couple of years, especially when they're expecting voting about a sidewalk to Walnut Creek, to the church there, especially when it becomes a polling location. So I just wanted to get that back on everybody's radar, that they're thinking about that again. I know when we discussed it probably 4 or 5 years ago, there were some concerns with where the sidewalk could go in the ditch in that area and getting it across. But it might be something worth looking at again. I don't know if something's changed over there, but just so everyone knows, I did get a call from one of the commissioners about a sidewalk so that people can get into that church, especially come election time. So anybody else have new business? All right. Any visitors have anything? All right.
No, I'm good.
Oh, there you are. All right.
We're good.
No visitors have. Thank you, sir. Our next meeting is June 28th at 7:30. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Foreman moves. Wait, who seconded that? Keller?
Yes.
I did.
All right, all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 Who was the second?
All
I
opposed.
missed it. Who was the second?
I think there were a number of people. Mr. Keller, second.
Thank you.
And it was a unanimous aye. All in favor?
Okay, thank you.
Opposed? None. All right, we will adjourn at 8:44.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Aye.